Hey, yo, how's it going, boys? What is up? So it's back once again for yet another, I guess this is another episode of GBF Uni. So this time, we're gonna cover a very huge topic. So this is probably gonna take a long time for me to finish this. Hope you're comfortable. You're gonna be here for a long time. We're gonna be here for quite some time. I'm not sure if I'm really gonna fit this in one video. Probably the YouTube has already seen it anyway. You probably already know by just looking at the YouTube title. So basically what we're gonna cover today is that I'm gonna try to let you guys know, like in this current time, in June 2023, which weapons is worth to have and which is worth to reduce. So yeah, we're gonna be here for a long time. I may or may not cover every single one, but I will try my best to cover every single one, okay? Because not every single item in the game exists currently, right? Because this is the time I'm just trying to cover the ones that you can actually get it physically, like outside of events. I'm not really going to cover like the actual events where it's, say those real-time events where we already went through and we haven't gotten it in side stories, those stuff. Yeah, those ones I'm probably not going to cover them at all. You're going to see me going back and forth between like the in-game and also the wiki as well. That's it. So we're going to go through every single element. It's going to take a while. Strap in. Let's start. So first of all, we're going to go with fire. Okay, so once again, I'm just going to mention that I'm mostly going to go the ones that is currently farmable right now, and then we follow up with the gacha weapons. Okay, so farmable first, outside of anything like currently the one the game has to offer right now, and then everything else. Okay, I don't really, probably I may or may not remember some stuff, so hope you forgive me on that one. I'm literally just doing it ad lib on the go kind of thing. I don't really have script for this. I'm just talking as I go. It's just one of those ideas. I feel like, oh, I remember seeing a lot of things that people may always ask this question, so I figured I should do it. But yeah, anyways, all right, fire. Let's go. All right, fire. So first, obviously, we're gonna go with the Magna. We'll start with Magna ones for fire. So Magna ones for fire. The only thing that is probably worth keeping is obviously just these sticks, because there are some situations where you can make use of this stick when you fully upgrade it, right? And of course, there's also the whole AX thing where you can also get them in sandbox, which is only within the first zone, if I recall correctly. If you go to the first zone, you go to the fire one, you can also get the AX skills for the Magna 1 stuff. Okay, so the reason why this one is actually okay is that you can get, like, I don't know, stamina or whatever along with it. So if I go for a stick, yeah, so if you go for the ULB one, you can get like stamina and shit along with it. Might actually make it a lot better. Yes, so that's one of it. The other three for Colossus weapons are kind of whatever. You can kind of just reduce them for the sake of weapon stones. You can just reduce them. These are all okay. I'm not going to talk about SR weapons, because SR weapons and R weapons are essentially dog shit in this game, okay? Yeah, so this one you can ignore. Next is that we're going to go with these ones, Athena weapons. Okay, so Athena weapons you can technically ignore as well for the most part, like this two, like the sword and the spear. You can technically ignore these, but at the same time you can get these AX skills now as well for it in the newer sandbox stuff, which is okay, but there is very niche use for this. So technically, if you really have problems having like extra like weapon stones for these ones, it's not too bad to reduce. You shouldn't really feel too bad to reduce these ones. This one is okay, but if you want, you can keep at least, like, I don't know, maybe 2 copies each or something, and then the rest you can just reduce or whatever. The rest maybe you just save up as your AX skills or whatnot. Yeah, the rest yeah, you can probably just reduce, okay? So next one is Magna 2. So Magna 2 for fire, the only decent one is most likely the sword or the stick. This is the supposedly the 2.5 Magna 2.5 weapon. So these ones you only maybe use like one at most, maybe two, but most of the time you only use one. For the sword, on the other hand, you may or may not want to get maybe at least like up to 3. I think it's the safe bet to get up to 3. The spear and the fist, you can probably just ignore for the most part. You can at least keep one of them for like main hand purposes if you want. So if you so desire as well, you can ignore as well. The other thing probably you should mention as well, because the this tier stuff is not really mentioned in. There's no raid for these anymore, but because they're in at least still in Magna 2, I'll probably just mention them as well. For these ones, you probably obviously want to keep if you're still Magna, right? This one, this ancient one, there is no like shining stuff. The shine is the primal one. This is the primal version. You can keep both of them. You can technically keep both of them, but like for this one, you probably want to keep at least like, I don't know, maybe at most is 5 copies. I think you want to keep at least 5 copies of this just to be safe. Technically, a lot of people only use like 3 to 4 copies at most these days, but you know, sometimes on the safe side you can keep up to 5. It's okay. This one, on the other hand, I think some people still use them for like the GIMP shitty primal version, primal grid. I don't think you want to, but if you want to keep them, probably I think some people use like between 2 to 3 of them for this one. Yeah, you can technically get them in sandbox as well, because you can get AX skills on them. So once again, for these ones, for XX or whatever you call them, you can I think you can get them in you can get them in the second zone, if I recall correctly. Where is the fire? Yes, yeah, so you can get them in the second zone of sandbox. You can also get AX skills for these, so if you can get stamina on these, is probably better as well. It makes your raw damage to be a lot better instead of relying on the likes of just enmity, because this is technically an enmity / normal medium, I think, and then crit as well type of weapon, if you didn't know that. But yeah, so you can get AX with them. Is also pretty nice, but I do not have them, sadly. So those weapons are the notable ones for Magna-ish weapons, yeah. And then I guess we can... Is that all we got for Fire Magna? I think so, right? And then the rest we can just go to innate weapons now. So for Atum, the real good ones is really just the spear. Not spear, the fucking stick. Well, the spear is okay as well. The spear is okay as well, but I think the stick is the one that people tend to try to get more of, because this is the one that you use for your Oki stuff. It's like, I think people use like at least 3 of them for these ones. Like these days, I only think people use 3 of them. This one you can probably have like 2 if you want. This one you probably still want to keep as well, at least 2. You probably have to farm a lot if you want to upgrade them though, so yeah. These are the notable ones you probably want. Go on for this is that I think the fire weapon is here. This one you can ignore. If I recall correctly, this one you can typically ignore because this is kind of whatever. Honestly, this weapon from Leviathan Malice is whatever. Actually, a lot of these is kind of whatever. But yeah, so this one is you can ignore. If you want, you can just keep one of them for main hand purposes again. The rest of them you can reduce, up to you. So this one is another one that you probably can ignore as well, because not a lot of people really make use of this weapon at all currently. There are some, maybe. There are some, but very, very niche ones. But for the most part, you can typically just ignore. You can just keep like maybe two sets or something if you want. If not, you can just typically ignore as well. You can just reduce it as much as you want. But yeah. Other than that, we have Ravans, right? For fucking Mugen, the most I've seen, I think, was like 2. I think I remember I saw 2 sets for Mugen's weapon. 3 is very, very niche though. Yeah, I think I've somewhat seen 3 at most, but that these days I don't think you really do that anymore. The most is probably 2, so that's probably the most you want to go for. Alright, let's double check with Wiki. Flashbang. Wiki, we have I'll try to go through briefly because there's a lot of the gacha weapons here, especially. This is the you can ignore these, you can ignore this, you can ignore this. Obviously, if you can actually afford some of these weapons, you probably shouldn't reduce it anyway. So another thing I probably should point out, a lot of gacha weapons, the go-to saying is that you should not reduce any gacha weapons, right? Honestly, even though they're shit, I wouldn't really suggest you to reduce them at all. Like SSR ones, you shouldn't probably reduce them at all. It's only like when you're in a position where you really need weapon stones, then I guess you should probably ask first whether is it really worth, is it okay to reduce or not. But honestly, at this point, you should not reduce anything. Xeno weapons, I think you can probably just ignore for the most part. But if you just get one of each, I think it's always fine. Anything more than one is a huge waste for Xeno, honestly. Yeah, it's really a huge waste to go more than one set. Okay, yeah, this one is ignore. I will probably only mention like the really only good ones for gacha, that is. But for the most part, yeah, all this one you can ignore. This one, I've seen people use this though. This is the Yukata Izmir, right? Yukata Izmir's weapon. I've actually seen people use this. If I recall correctly, I did somewhat see people use this, but it's very, very like a very, very small, tiny amount of people using it. So either way, you should probably keep this. This is the class weapon. You can ignore this side story. Ignore. You know, this is a meme, but you can actually still somewhat use this to a degree, because if you want to use fire and you want to do like hard raids or whatever, that this technically kind of helps. Ignore. This I mentioned already. Banadia, people do use it, so you better not reduce that to a specific degree. Not a lot, but you can actually use it. So plus it's a grand character, so I suggest you not do that. This is a class weapon. Ignore that. This is a 30 Goemon weapon. Ignore that. This one, some people use this too. I do remember seeing some people actually use this as well because of this thing. And you want to go NMT or whatever shit. Don't reduce this. I suggest you not to reduce this. This one is, I think, another Anderson's weapon, I think. Yeah, Anderson's weapon. It's okay, but there's no full limit break yet. So a lot of these gacha weapons, I'm probably just going to tell you to not reduce it. I'm not going to tell you whether is it good to reduce or not. Yeah, because I think that one is very, very like, especially for a video like this where it's probably going to go on, like stay for a long time, right? Things may change in the future. Sometimes it's probably going to be better, sometimes it's going to be shit. So a lot of times just don't ever reduce your gacha weapons. This one is whatever, you can ignore that. Gacha weapons as well, ignore that. Some people actually use this in as a main hand. Yeah, this I think this is Ganda's weapon. Yeah, Ganda's weapon. They actually use this as main hand, just so they can get extra thing for the wrestler or whatever stuff. It's not really like crazy good, but yeah, it helps. This one's whatever. This one's whatever. This one, oh yeah, the bunkles. I totally forgot about like the whole very existence of bunkles, because this is all single player now. This used to be okay, but not anymore, so you can technically ignore this too anyway, so it's fine. Class weapon, ignore. Yeah, you can ignore that. You can, yeah, this is a class weapon too, I think. Is it? No. Wait, is it? No, it's not. Yeah, you can ignore that anyway. This one you can ignore as well. Colossus, you can ignore. Crimson Finger, you can ignore as well. This probably is one of the meta stuff right now, as everyone knows. Michael's weapon, this is all the prime stuff that you definitely want, which is, I think a lot of people tend to use 2 of them now. I think, yeah. I think a lot of people always use 2 of them these days. But I don't really, even though you have more than 2, I don't suggest you to reduce them or anything. Just keep them. Like, this is all like really good stuff. Just keep them. This one's you can ignore this. You can ignore this. Another thing I probably want to point out again, even though I say ignore that, you shouldn't reduce them because this is all gacha weapons. Yeah, this is a 100 gold moon weapon. You can ignore that. This gacha weapon, so no, you can ignore this. You can ignore this. You can ignore this. This is a class weapon. You can ignore that. This is event weapon. You can ignore. Event weapon. No, this is the OG Grea's weapon, if I recall correctly. You can ignore that as well. There are some use of draconic weapons. Yes, there are some use, especially in like hard raids or whatever. There are some use of this even in Magna Siete, I think. I think for some Magna setups in Siete actually uses this thing. So you may not want to make. So yeah, this one is an event weapon, I think. Wait, is it? I don't remember. I think this is an event weapon, right? Yes, it's an event weapon. You can ignore. This one you can ignore as well. This one I think I already mentioned. Guild War weapon. I don't think I need to mention Guild War weapon at all. Stop, please, stop loading. Okay, Xeno. This one I think I already mentioned. You can just keep one of each. You should be fine. This is this a gacha weapon? Oh, it is. Oh, this guy is fucking new. Yeah, just keep them. This one's fine. Oh, Militus weapons. Yeah, so Militus weapons is one of those things that you should keep as well. Even though they may sound trash as well, you should keep every single one of them. I probably will mention this again in every single element later. It's okay. Event weapon, this side story weapon, you can ignore. This is probably a side story weapon, you can ignore. Excalibur, we all know what that is. Already mentioned this. Nope. Ignore that. Class weapon. This is gacha weapon. You can ignore. This one. Oh, this one for... Oops. Stop. For primary... For Bunkle, right? Prometheus weapon. For this one, maybe you can actually make use of this. There are some use of this because it gives you like a lot of raw damage. Because there's like big boosts and medium boosts, right? So it kind of helps a little bit. Even though you are not primal, you can actually just go for like elemental or whatever shit. This can kind of work in some way. So maybe at most you want just go with 2 or 3. 2 or 3 helps. Yeah. Will Nasus weapon is definitely like a good thing as well. I think some people only use one of them at most. Yeah, I think only one at most. You should still keep it anyway, yeah. But one at most. This one, I think people use 2 at most these days. Yeah, this is the Reinhardt's weapon. You should definitely not reduce any of these. Guild War weapon, you can ignore. This one is Nataku's weapon, right? The OG Nataku, right? Yeah, I fucking remember this asshole. Ignore his weapon, it's fucking useless, but you shouldn't reduce. Oh, this is impossible to get anymore. Yeah, so this is that one weapon that is it's almost impossible for you to get these days. But you can technically still get in Rise of the Beast, I think, but useless. Anturia's weapon, you can ignore, don't reduce. Guild War weapon, you can ignore. Goldmoon weapon, you can ignore. Goldmoon weapon. This is one of those good, I would say decent primal weapon, because this is the garrison weapon for primal. You get garrison and you get large enmity as well. So this is actually pretty handy. So you can actually kind of use that. I think 1 or 2 at most. Yeah, 1 or 2 at most. For Magna Rise of the Beast, this one is definitely a must-have as well. If you're a Magna, you definitely want to at least have these. You can only have 1 of these anyway, if I recall correctly. Wait, can you get more than one of these? No, right? I don't remember. Maybe Chat can help me out on this, because I don't remember you can get more than 1 of these. So just get it in Rise of the Beast. Plus we have Rise of the Beast this month, right? Yeah. I don't remember this one. Who is this again? Oh, this is an event, I think. Yeah, you can probably ignore. This is an event as well, I think. You can probably ignore. Vasiraga's weapon, you can ignore as well, but don't reduce. Class weapon, you can ignore. This is just this weapon tier is just for flex only. Okay, you're probably not gonna get it. Trust me. If you're a new player and you're watching this, you're not gonna get this. Just ignore this. Ignore this as well. What's this? Stabina's weapon, you can kind of ignore as well. Yeah, you can kind of ignore as well, but don't reduce. This is the thing. This is the Sun's weapon. This is Alanan's weapon, if I recall correctly. You can only get one of the copy as well anyway. A lot of times if you have this maxed out, you're probably going to use it anyway, so yeah. Class weapon, ignore. This class weapon, ignore. This is... I don't know this is a class weapon or not. Yeah, this is a class weapon, I think. Yeah. Hercules, we don't talk about that. Higurashi, we don't talk about that. Because, yeah, we don't talk about Gold Moon weapons. This is the Akasha farmable one. Yes, this is technically farmable as well, because you can get that from Akasha, which is the it's one of those things where you can get you get these stuff, and then you can use it to unlock the weapons, which I already did, which is under Hollow Sky weapons. You can get it for these, and then you can unlock these ones. Like, yeah, you can get these via Akasha, if I recall correctly, and they are okay. This one is kind of okay. You can only get one per account anyway, so if you want to, you just get it. If not, I don't think you're missing out anything, so it's fine. This one you can ignore because you get this from the normal Ifrit. This is Magisa's weapon, you can ignore. Class weapon, ignore. Ixaba, okay, Ixaba is a little bit of probably this is the first thing that is probably going to be controversial. You may or may not need this weapon at all. For, like, especially how it is right now in Primal, you technically do not need Ixabas at all. There are some situations maybe you can actually make use of Ixaba, yes. But I think for the most part right now, you don't really make use of, like, Ixaba, especially like the higher end ones, for especially like the meta setups, right? You don't really use Ixabas at all these days from what I'm seeing, because you see Percival's sword, you see Michael axes, and then you see Reinhardt here, and then you fill in your opus, you put in like what's her name? Summer Kubira's weapon, those kind of stuff. You have no place for Ixaba at all. Yeah. This one is also a Halloween character, which I think I can ignore. Ignore. This one I think I already mentioned. Kanabo, you can kind of ignore as well. Class weapons, like all these class weapons and stuff, I'm probably just going to ignore because you're not really here to know whether you can reduce this or not, right? This one class weapon you can ignore as well. This one is Mugen's weapon, the OG grand weapon for Mugen. So for this one is you may want to have at least one copy of. I've seen people actually using more than one copy, like I think 2 around there, but I think in some cases people only slot in 1 in like the higher end raid or whatever, like, you know, you want to solo far or whatever, whatnot. I think people use 1 of them at most, but yeah, don't reduce that. This one you can ignore. This one's our current weapon for Frau. You can just once again just use it if you have it. If not, then whatever. You can ignore this one. Ignore. OG Percival's weapon you can ignore. This is the good shit. Yeah, this is where the good shit comes. So for Percival's weapon, you only need, I think, 3 at most. Yeah, I think you only need 3. Like for the top of the line, people tend to only slot in is only 3. There is a very, very rare case that they actually slot in 4, but once again, if you have already like more than that, than the amount that I mentioned, just keep them. I don't think you should reduce them. For the most part, you should always never reduce them. If you really need weapon stones, just go Magna 2 or Magna 1, just get them and reduce those weapons. Okay. This is OG Herles, I think. OG Herles' weapon, you can ignore that. You can ignore this. Class weapon, ignore. This is I've forgotten what's that guy's name, the fire character, but yeah, you can also use this as a main hand as well. It's not bad. Oh, Eliza. Yeah, you can kind of use this as a main hand, but I don't think you really need to. You can kind of ignore this for the most part too. Ignore. This is Proving Ground weapon, I think, if I recall correctly. So Proving Ground weapons as well for like the because we don't know when is this gonna come back. Because this came out not too long. This weapon came out not too long ago, but like the gap between the first one and the second one, it was like fucking 3 years, was it? We were so fucking far apart. So for the most part, in Proving Ground weapons, you have one copy of each is always okay. Yeah. Some people were saying that for this particular one, you can actually make use of multiple of it because you can make this as like the better AES weapon for Magna or some shit. But honestly, at that point, it's like, why bother? It's why bother. This one is an event weapon, I think. You can ignore that. This one, class weapon, ignore that. This is Summer Medusa, I think. Summer Medusa's weapon, yeah. Actually, if you think about it, right, I remember seeing people use this before. But it's so niche that that I only see it like once in a blue moon kind of shit. You know? And then I think people use that as a main hand because there was one particular guild war where you can actually just spam this non-stop on the boss so the boss doesn't kill you in like full auto or whatever. Yeah, so it's alright. Just keep them. This is Colossus weapon, just keep them, but ignore it. Silver's weapon, ignore it. Class weapon, Mjolnir, yeah, well. Clary's weapon, ignore it. Murakumo, okay, ignore it. This is the trumpet emoji, summer characters thing. She still doesn't have a full lumen break for this, interesting. But yeah, just ignore that. This is wow, this is super old. Can you still get this? I think you can, right? In the side stories or whatever. This is the old Idol Master event weapon, which at the beginning was the very first big EX mod in the game. It's so old. How old is it? Did they not mention it? Question mark? This thing is so old that the wiki doesn't even fucking know. Yeah, this is a very old weapon, okay? This is Ilnot's weapon, you can ignore. You can ignore class weapon. This is event weapon, you can ignore as well. This one I think I already mentioned. Guild War weapon you can ignore, class weapon ignore, class weapon ignore, Guild War weapon ignore, class weapon. Who the hell is this? I don't remember this. Oh, this is Yukata Silva's weapon. You can just keep, but you can still ignore anyway. This one is shit. This one is shit. This is like the super old event weapons, which I think you can get in the side stories. Question mark. This one is also a question. Yeah, they're fucking old. This one as well you can ignore. This is the Relic Buster class weapon, ignore. Chrysor, ignore. This one as well, Doctor, ignore. Grand Shiva's weapon. So Grand Shiva's weapon, I think is very controversial as well because this is an Ogi type weapon. You may use this for like your OTK or whatever, but not a lot of people use this because Wilnas's weapon is actually better than this. In a way. So maybe at most if you want to use it, just use like one or something. Yeah. But don't you don't really have to reduce this at all. So yeah. Oh. Okay, so for this one it's different. So this is the first Rise of the Beast weapon, one of the few Rise of the Beast weapons that is farmable, and like you can just keep grabbing over and over and over again. So for this one there are 3 types, okay? There are 3 types because they allow you to put in like 3 different skills, right? You can put in different skills to them. So there are 3 types. There is one that gives you a skill cap, I mean a damage cap or some shit. Where is it? I don't remember which one. Or this one. Yeah, this one. So this Vern lets you go fucking fire a damage cap. But for the most part, if you want to get the so-called the Zeke's, the Fire Rise of the Beast outfit, you definitely need to get 3 of these anyway. So yeah. Other than that, you can just keep reducing it. So you just get 1 of each. The most important is get the damage cap one, and then you're good. Okay. So moving on, you can ignore this. This is the fucking what's his name? The Sugita's character's name, Drang. Yeah, his weapon, the fire version. You can ignore this as well. You can ignore this as well for the most part. This one you can ignore as well. Ignore. Ignore. This is also, I think, is a class. I mean, this is a gacha weapon. I think you can ignore. No, this is a class weapon. No, this is a lumberjack's weapon. Yeah. This one is a gacha weapon. I think. No, this is a event weapon. You can ignore. Class weapon, ignore. Rose Queen weapons. Oh yes, Rose Queen are farmable weapons as well. Rose Queen weapons are actually decent. You don't really need them anymore, but they are actually somewhat decent because they give you this stuff that is before Draconic was a thing. But these days you can technically just use Draconic weapons. So a lot of times you can just ignore these ones. They are farmable. They are technically farmable even today. Current content as well. You just need to do Rose Queen HL and shit. So you can just ignore. This one is Fire Metera's weapon. You can wait. I didn't remember seeing people use this before. This is like kind of like the budget Summer Kubira's weapon, if I recall correctly, that people use this for. It's the budget version of that. Summer Kubira's weapon is technically better for this kind of stuff, but yeah, if you have it maxed out, sure, why not, right? I don't suggest you to bar this, obviously, but like if you already like. This is one of those things where you don't have to bar if you have like multiple copies of it, just combine it. I think it's fine anyway. Class weapon you can ignore. Event weapon you can ignore. Normal Athena's weapon you can technically ignore as well. This one... Who the hell is this weapon? Oh, this is one of those OS events as well. Yeah, you can... Wait, is that new? I don't know. Just ignore. Yours weapon you can ignore. This one you can kinda ignore as well. Mentioned this already. Opus, I don't think you need me to tell you. You probably want it anyway. Class weapon, ignore. Akaram, farmable Akaram weapon, you can ignore. You can reduce these as well. For the most part, probably you want to keep one copy of this anyway. This is one of the better ones because this is the Magna one that gives you crit, right? Yeah, this is the one that gives you crit in Akaram. So maybe this might help you in the extra slots at the bottom. So this one is actually okay. I think every single one of the... Not every single one. There is one of each element that you can keep because this is the crit one. You can actually keep that, or you just want to make your sandbox life easier. You want a bit more HP. Yeah, use the other one instead. But yeah, this is the other one, I think. The Akaram weapon. Yeah, this is the one that gives you HP. So if you do not need the crit thing, yeah, you can just use this if you want to. So honestly, I just leave that to you. For the most part, I don't think you really need these at all. It's just more of like, if you do not have enough slots to put in your extra thingy, you can just ignore it for the most part. This one is Rise to the Beast as well. You can ignore and ignore. Technically, you can just reduce this though, because you get this like all the time farming Rise to the Beast anyway. This one is the event. You can ignore the Shadowverse thing. You can get it in the side story. Ignore that. You can ignore this. You can only get this with the shrimp from Friday thingy every end of the month or whatever. I don't suggest you to use that to get this. You should use... it's better off using those shrimp to get your spark funds instead. So don't bother. Don't bother with that. Guild War weapons, no. This one, class weapon, ignore. Ignore. This one you can ignore as well. Astral weapons is one of those things where you can use it. Sometimes you use it, sometimes you don't, because a lot of times these days when it comes to like the high-end grids, astral weapons can typically be ignored right now, because a lot of times, if you didn't know, this perk here, right, can be easily counter, like, how do I say, like, you can't really make use of this, because a lot of times, like when it comes to this this mod here, it's not really stackable with like say with what fucking weapon? I forgot what weapon was it. There was one weapon that that you also get like echo on the third triple attack. You cannot stack this together with it. This applies to every other astral weapons out there. Like, I probably will mention this again later on, but like for example, like for Earth, right, you get skill cap based on the number of buffs, but like it does not stack with like Opus. So there's a lot of stuff that you can't really stack it with. So a lot of times these days when it comes to astral weapons, you're really only using this for the EX mod. So a lot of times you only use this Like say if you want to go with like the double Huan Long OTK setup or whatever, you just need like raw damage, then yeah, having Astral in there is actually quite helpful. Outside of that, like in these days when it comes to like normal grids and stuff, we typically don't use Astral anymore, but it's still okay to have. But it is farmable, so you can actually just go for it, I suppose. This is also a very old Idol Master weapon. It's one of those few Idol Master weapons that gives us EX mods. Idol Master weapons are the first ones that really give us EX mods, like big EX mods back in the day. It's a very old weapon, you can take ignore that. Ignore this, ignore this, ignore that. Yeah, you can ignore that as well. You can typically ignore, wait, yeah, you can ignore this as well. Kane Holiday is quite recent as well, but yeah, you can ignore, it's kind of useless. This is also another one that I think they only give you one weapon per account or whatever. This is the Rise of the Beast gun, which is actually really good as well. Yeah, one of the Rise of the Beast that is really good because it gives you this for Magna. It's pretty handy, so it's quite nice to use alongside with your AES or whatnot. Yeah, and then this is Summer EO, I think, which is kind of useless. You can ignore. And then your Seraphic weapons, I think you don't really need me to tell you. Seraphic weapons are very important. Yeah, Seraphic weapons are just... It's one of those must-haves anyway. Outside of that is you just upgrade it to Ultima. That's it, right? This one I already mentioned. This one already mentioned. This one is the same as earlier. This one you can ignore. Class weapon. This is... what's her name? Therese, right? This is Therese weapon. You can technically ignore as well. Guild War, you can ignore. This is the I forgot what the fuck is that character. It's one of those characters you get only from like the ticket or something. I don't remember. It's one of those gacha characters, but yeah, you don't really make use of that. You can ignore. This is Azazel's weapon, I think. You can ignore. You don't really use that. Yeah, I already mentioned this. Ignore this. This is some Christmas. I think this is Christmas Nemone's weapon, right? Yeah, Christmas Nemone's weapon. You can ignore it. It's quite useless. Xeno can. Right there. This is the big one. This is one of the meta weapons that people tend to use when you want to use skill-based characters in your setup, where you put I think 2 at most. I think people use 2 at most. Yeah. Mostly only 2. I don't think they go more than 2. Yeah, I don't think they really put more than 2. For the most part, you can also just slot in 1 as well. If you just want to have a little bit of supplemental. Yeah. So, Kubira's weapon, good. Summer Kubira, good. Okay, so this is Subasa's, I think. Subasa's weapon, I think. Is it Subasa's weapon? Yeah. Can kind of ignore as well. You know what's funny? Surprisingly, I can actually remember the character's weapon. I thought by at this point I wouldn't recognize most of the character's weapon. Yeah, so Guild War weapon you can ignore. You can ignore. Ultima ignore all the Ultima, ignore. Class weapon you can ignore. This one is event weapon you can ignore. Oh, this one is the other Proving Ground weapon that is actually good as well that I mentioned earlier, where having one of it is actually really nice because you can use that as a main hand, but as you can see. Oh man, 2018. It came out in 2018 and the 5-star is fucking 2023. 5 years, man. It took it 5 years to get the full limit break. ULB, right? Damn, dude. You can ignore that. You can, I think this is some... Is this Summer Mirin, right? Damn, I'm actually on point. Summer Mirin, yeah, I don't think you need her weapon at all. This is Christmas Altair, you can ignore. This is Iodos's weapon, you can ignore. I think I mentioned this dragon already. This is the, if I recall correctly, this is the Zawardo's weapon. Zawardo's weapon, I think this is one of the decent one, I think. But the problem right now with the Zawardo's weapon is that it's not full limit break yet. It's only currently max limit break right now at level 100. So you don't really, I feel like it's not really that good yet. Plus you can only use this in your Akarum. So outside of Akarum is pretty shit. So for now, maybe it's gonna get better later on. I'm probably gonna mention that anyway, but for now, this is probably one of the few ones you can just ignore for now. Yeah. Xeno, I think I already mentioned. This one is another Rise of the Beast weapon that you can technically farm, but I don't think you really need this at all. Because it's... Yeah, I mean, there are some people that actually somewhat make use of this, but I don't think you really need to farm this at all. The other Rise of the Beast weapon I mentioned prior to this is the one that we probably need to remember, okay? And I think that's all of the fire weapons, right? You see, you look at the size of this scroll bar. It's so freaking small.